In this video, I'm going to show you how to use some two-part wood filler. So we've got our two-part wood filler here. And one thing we did before this was we just did a test to see if our wood filler is still usable. This was an old can of filler that we had. And as you can see, it doesn't spread or smooth out. So if your old can of filler doesn't seem to stick to the wood and it just peels off, then replace that and get yourself a fresh can of wood filler. We'll pop a link to this in the description because it's my favourite kind to use. And as you can see, with our new filler, it's a lot smoother and easy to play with. So if your filler does start to look like this, it's dead. If it spreads easily, then your filler's okay to use. So first thing to note with two-part filler is that when you open the lid, you'll find it comes with an activator and a scraper, both very useful. So once we've got our two-part filler, we just need to get our flat knife in there to open it up. And the key when you're working with two-part filler is to get the right ratio of wood filler to our activator. And that's normally a golf ball size of filler to a pea size of activator. So we'll open this up. As you can see, about the size of a golf ball. So I've placed an amount of filler onto a non-porous board, size of a golf ball, and the size, and squeeze a small amount of the wood filler hardener from the tube next to filler. So we take our filler, we take our smooth flat surface. So we've got our golf ball size of filler here. We just want to spread that out, mix that a little bit, make sure we've got it all on there. That's our filler size. And then the amount of activator really depends how long you want the filler to take before it goes off. I always like to just use, this seems a bit watery for some reason. It's usually a bit, this could be our old activator actually. Try our new stuff. That's more like it. And that is all you need. If it's looking something like that, you don't need to be too accurate with this, but you really want to make sure you have a lot more filler than activator. So you place your activator on there and then you need to thoroughly mix it in. That activator needs to be spread throughout the filler. If it's not spread properly, some parts of your filler will go off before others, so really mix that through. It's really worth putting a bit of effort in at this stage to just work your knife through your filler. Now, because we're going for speed here in this video, we are actually going to add a tiny bit more activator. But again, be really sparing with this. I probably added a little bit too much here. It's one of those jobs where less is more. Depends how quickly you want to get the project done. If it's a project at home and you're not rushing for time, I just recommend a small amount of activator. Remember the magic ratio, golf ball to pea is perfect. So now we're happy that we've mixed our activator into our wood filler properly. It's time to start filling our hole. So we've got our piece of wood here. We're going to exaggerate this a little bit just to show you how good this filler is. So we're going to drill in with a 12mm hole. So this might be a common job. You've got a hole to fill. You can either plug it or use filler. So we'll show you how to use our two-part filler now. I've got this scraper, it's handy to have. It's just a simple flat knife. We'll pop a link to those in the description in case you haven't got one. But what works equally as well is this plastic scraper that comes with the filler. So you can see it's got a knife-like edge there. You want to take your filler. You only want a small amount on there. And what you want to try and do is squeeze it into the hole as you fill. So you're trying to get as much of that filler into that hole as possible. What I don't like to do is overwork the filler. Once you've got it into the hole, you just want to clean it off. You always want to leave your filler proud. It doesn't matter if you've a little bit of sanding to do, and that way you can get it all nice and flush. You can always use your little scrap of wood to give you something to wipe your filler on and work from. And then you just want to smooth that filler off. It doesn't matter if you've left it a little bit proud. It's actually more important to leave it proud because that'll sand off afterwards. So we'll come back to this when it's all dried. It shouldn't take more than an hour or so before that's dried, and then we can sand it and we'll show you how it looks. So now we've left our wood filler for about 40 minutes to dry. Because we used 2-part wood filler and we used our hardener, we've got our wood filler to dry within about an hour. So that's fairly good going. And the way to test that, see if your filler's gone off, is you can always tap it with a screwdriver, see if you can scrape it. If it sounds hard like that and then you're struggling to scrape it off, then you know your filler's dried. So now all we need to do is get some sandpaper and sand our filler off. So when you're using 2-part filler, you do need to be aware it sets fairly hard, which is what you want when you're dealing with wood. And you'll need to use quite high grit sandpaper in order to sand it off. This is 40 grit. It's possibly slightly too high, so a 60 grit or an 80 grit I would suggest for removing this 2-part filler. It normally requires slightly tougher grit sandpaper than you would expect. And if you have gone over it with 80, you can always work your way down through the grits as normal. So I'll just show you now. I always like to use a sanding block, as it just keeps the surface nice and flat. If you use your fingers while sanding, you can end up putting grooves in the top of the wood, especially when you're using decent quality sandpaper. So as you can see, we've now sanded it off, and we've got a lovely smooth hole filled there using our 2-part wood filler. And now that's ready to accept some stain or some paint. So we always like to use this when we're using softwood like pine, some light sandable wood filler. It comes in different levels of different shades. It comes in light, dark, medium. Light's always good for softwood, but obviously pick a filler that's the nearest colour to the wood that you're working with. We'll pop a link to this in the description. So we'll show you in a minute how this looks with a coat of paint or a coat of stain. Haven't quite decided yet. I hope this video has shown you how to easily fill a hole in wood.